Welcome back to the Dividend Diplomats YouTube channel, guys. You got Bert, the Hurt, and Lanny from the DD, guys. And we're here to get into a little bit of an interesting topic here. September is a quarter end month, so it makes the ETF and money market funds especially special during this quarter or this month because this is when dividends are announced and paid. And Bert, we've got a fun one today for the viewers.
We do. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up. Remember, we're trying to reach financial freedom through investing in dividend growth stocks, keyword growth. It's not limited to stocks anymore. We've been talking about ETFs and we've been building some of these great dividend growth ETF positions. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today with that expected dividend growth for these ETF funds. We're going to love it. This is going to be a fun one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And guys, we're talking about two ETFs in particular. Dividend Diplomats talking about two ETFs. You know, we're talking about the Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF, VYM, and the Chuck Schwab Dividend ETF with SCHD. Bam. So, guys, you know, I own a ton of VYM. Bert's building out a lot of SCHD, no doubt, in his wife's account. These are two big ETFs. I know everybody's been loving SCHD over the last 18 to 24 months, guys. But let's really put it where it matters. Let's set a little expectation here for September 2023 dividends. You'll see the methods we use. What we're going to look at here is what Vanguard's done 2023 versus 2022 so far, and you know what Schwab has done as well. But then we'll even go back to 2022 to 2022, 2021 dividend and see what that looked like. And then, Bert, what else will we break down here as we dive actually deeper into the funds as well?
Yeah, so remember, all of these ETFs and all these funds published their at least top 10 holdings. A lot of these publish many of more, all the holdings for transparency. We're going to take a look. We're going to run through some of the top 10, see the dividend increases that have been announced, and see can we potentially learn what's going to be coming our way to VYM and to SCHD by what their individual holdings are doing. That's going to help us anchor our expectations as we continue to go through it.
Exactly. So we're going to look at the top 10 and see what growth rate they had in their dividend in the last 12 months. And then maybe use a weighted average to say, okay, could this be what the dividend growth looks like in September? Again, could be a lot of error here, but we're using a little bit of judgment and a methodology to get there.
Yeah, remember, it's fun. Dividends are not guaranteed. We're doing our best guess, but we're not guaranteeing that these are going to be the increases. So let's make sure we're doing that. This is fun.
So guys, grab your coffee, right?
Fun.
Yeah. Get your coffee for this one, guys. Get your pen, pad, paper. Get your calculator out. It's time to set an expectation for Vanguard's VYM and SCHD Q3 dividend. Let's see who's going to be right. And when we go through it, let us know what you think they're going to pay out for each ETF in the comments below, because you'll be able to benchmark that against what the DD might expect here and see who actually is the winner.
That's right. So let's start first with VYM, Vanguard's High Dividend Yield ETF. Let's look at what they've done so far here in 2023, making sure I have the sheet up right. We've announced 2 quarters of dividend increases so far. So what are those increases? First quarter's increase, the 2023 Q1 is 0.8767 share. So 2022 comp with 0.8479. That was a 3.4 increase in Q1. Q2, 0.7172 compared to last year, 0.6622. So Q2 over Q2 was 8.31%. VYM's averaged 5.85% dividend growth compared to last year so far in 2023.
And Bert, I have to apologize. That's actually in flip. It's Q2 and Q1, top to bottom.
All right.
And that'll be the same for SCHD as well. But no, hey, you're right. So they, in the first quarter, 8.3% increase. Second quarter, smaller, 3.4%. So what was that average? What was that average growth then through the first 2 quarters?
5.85% for VYM. So let's take a step back. We haven't had September yet. Let's see what September 2022 to 2021 was.
Yeah, let's go back in time.
Yeah, it's the most readily available information for September. September 2022, was 0.7672 compared to 0.75. That was a 2.46% increase here for VYM. So historically not the highest dividend growth mark, at least it wasn't last year.
No, it wasn't. Let's look at SCHD here, guys. Last quarter, this was the one that rocked the boat with SCHD investors here. Q2 was actually 5.56% less than Q2 of 23, 66.47 cents versus 70.38 cents. Q1, that was very balmy for SCHD shareholders. Remember, that dividend was 15% higher. It was 59.65 cents versus the 51.76 cents. So on average, about, we'll call it 5% this year when you just average the two out, just a little under 5%. But going back in a time like we just did with VYM, SCHD in Q3 actually grew their dividend last year by 8.47% based on what they were, holding in their, entire ETF at 63.67 cents versus 58.7 cents. Interesting there.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I know you hit it on the head when you said it, that negative 5.56% decrease shook some SCHD investors. It's going to be key to see what's going to happen come Q3 to see if they can recover, or did they just overkick their dividend increases last year and now they kind of have to reel things back in, especially after they rebalance. And that's one of the big things that's different and unique among SCHD versus VYM, which makes it a little more difficult. SCHD has an annual rebalancing where they'll shuffle around their top 10. They'll shuffle around their top holdings. So it's not quite apples to apples. That could be why their dividend growth is so much lower this year compared to last year.
But now, with that, what we're going to do as well is we're going to look at the top 10 holdings for each. And the top 10 Vanguards is 25% of the whole portfolio, and the top 10 SCHD is over 40%. So then we'll just do like a little bit of a weighted average growth rate, and maybe we'll benchmark like, hey, that's what the growth rate could be for Q3. So we'll go down. We're not going to go through every stock. We'll maybe highlight a few. Bert will highlight a few on SCHD. With Vanguard, you got Exxon, J&J, JP Morgan, Procter Gamble, Broadcom, Home Depot, Merck, Chevron, Pepsi, and AbbVie. A couple of the big hitters from a growth rate standpoint for them is Broadcom at 12.2%, Home Depot at 10%, Pepsi at 10%. Now, the one caveat here, and Bert, thanks for mentioning it before we started this video, I put blank for JP Morgan because technically the board hasn't said, oh yeah, we've announced the $1.05 per share dividend, because right now they pay $1 and they haven't really increased it in a long time. So we're going to put a goose egg for JP Morgan because technically the ETF hasn't experienced a growth.
Yeah. So that's if you're trying to anchor your expectations, that's the best way to do it. Be conservative with it.
Yep. So right now that weighted average based on just that pot of the portfolio is about a 5.77% growth rate.
So let's see SCHD. Broadcom's their number one position at 4.47%. So nearly 2% more than VYM. And that's huge because of that 12.2% growth rate. Then there's Cisco, Amgen, Home Depot, AbbVie, Chevron, Merck, Coke, Verizon, and Pepsi. So some very strong dividend growth rates buried in there, and some solid mid-single digit dividend growth rates in there, which I think could potentially help prop up SCHD. Amgen with the nearly 10%, Home Depot with the 10%, Chevron 6.3%, Merck 5.8%, Coke at 4.55%, Pepsi at 10%. I mean, the only one that really jumped out at me as having no dividend growth is going to be Verizon, and we're going to find out here. That's the laggard of the group, but their growth rate's going to be propped up. So their top 10 makes up 40.69% of their portfolio. Remember, that's compared to VYM. The ones that Lanny mentioned made up 25%. And when you take the weighted average for the dividend growth, it's 5.85%. So in line with what you said for VYM at 5.77. So they're right around the same.
Yeah, very, very close, guys. So when we go into that, this is how we used our expectation. We said, okay, what was that Q3 2022 dividend? So like Vanguard's VYM, for instance, it was 0.76720 in Q3 of 2022. So then we just added that 5.77% growth rate to it. And we're looking at an expectation of 81.144 cents dividend. Again, a 5.77% increase.
Yeah. For SCHD, Q3 2022 was 0.6367. When you extrapolate and you apply the 5.85% estimated growth rate there, Q3 2023, 0.67397 for SCHD.
Bro, how do you feel about this? Do you think we're close? Do you think could happen?
VYM, yes. And the only reason I say VYM, it's proven it's a little bit more consistent with VYM. There's a lot less variability that goes into it. SCHD is more of the extremes. It's the highs and the lows. The negative, there weren't the negative 5.56% last quarter, I would say for sure. But that caused you to pause to think that, is there something more that we don't know going into this average? But I think it's a very reasonable way to project out what the growth may be.
Well, guys, watching this video, what do you think about those expectations? Again, 81.14 cents for VYM, 67.4 cents for SCHD. You know, pretty much very similar, 5.77% growth on VYM, 5.85% for SCHD. Do you think that smells good heading into the dividend announcements from these two beasts of ETFs in the dividend investing community?
If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up. And what else do we have to tell this community, Lanny?
Buy dividend stocks and keep buying. Don't look back.
That wasn't it.
Hold on as long as you can.
Nope, that wasn't it either.
All right, if you're not with us, you're against us, Jack.
There we
that
go.
Was Bert the Herd and Lanny from the DD over and out.